Good morning everyone. Today we shall discuss the topic concept of dominance. Now, what do you mean by the dominance? As you know, in an organism, in a diploid organism, two alleles are present for a gene. Now, what is a gene? A gene is unit of inheritance that is responsible for a particular trait. Clear? Now, the gene is having different forms and these different forms of a gene are known as alleles. Now, if I talk about the gene of height, then it is having alleles that is capital T, small t. Right? Now, when these two will be present like this in the homozygous condition, or again this is homozygous but this is homozygous recessive, or it could be in the form of like this. Now, in this case, this is the heterozygous condition. Capital T is there and small t is there. Now, if I talk about this condition, then you will say capital T is the dominant one. As a result, the phenotype of the organism would be tall. Now, here comes the question. What is so special in this capital T that it is dominant? No doubt you know the definition of dominant gene. Dominant allele is that allele which is able to express itself even in the presence of recessive allele. And if I talk about the recessive allele, that is small t, it is not able to show its existence, it is not able to express itself if the dominant allele is present. But why is it so? Why this allele can express itself and this cannot express itself? Okay. So for this, let us take an example. Suppose I am having a gene that codes for a particular enzyme. In chapter number 9, basically in class 11th, you had done enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. Most of the enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. And if I talk about gene only, as I said, gene is the unit of inheritance and they are responsible for a particular trait. Basically, they are responsible for making the proteins. Genes are responsible for making the proteins, and that process by which the proteins are being made from the gene. This process we'll learn in chapter number 6. Okay, so basically if I take an example of a gene, this gene, it results in the formation of an enzyme. Enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. Clear? And as I told you, now only gene codes for the protein. So this is the similar condition. There is a gene. That gene codes for an enzyme. Clear? Now if I talk about the function of enzyme, you know enzyme catalyzes the reaction. It means they increases the speed of the reaction. Suppose this gene encodes for a particular enzyme. This enzyme catalyzes the conversion of substrate S into protein into a product P. This enzyme catalyzes the conversion of substrate S into the product P. Clear? Now, if I talk about the gene, let it be the condition capital E, small e. Now, if I see two alleles are there, that is capital E and small e. So actually two possibilities are there. First condition, when the allele is not modified. So not modified allele. And this is basically the dominant one. Out of E, capital E and small e, you will say capital E is the dominant one. Am I clear? So suppose this is the unmodified allele. And being unmodified allele, it will keep on doing the function that it was doing earlier. it will keep on synthesizing this enzyme. Clear? Now, if due to any other factor, due to mutation, due to any other kind of environmental factor, there is modification in second allele, and the second allele in which the modification takes place, that is basically the recessive one. So the modified allele. Now this modification could be in three sense, like now this new modified allele, it could produce the same enzyme which is having the same efficiency or a little bit less efficiency. If this is the case, then the phenotype produced will be somewhat normal or near to normal. Now second case, this modified allele could produce an enzyme, but that enzyme is non-functional. So basically in second case, the enzyme is being produced, but it is non-functional. So this modified allele in this case will not take any part in the phenotype. So basically this not modified allele will take part, and as a result, the phenotype of the organism will be under the control of this unmodified allele, which we can call as dominant allele. Now third case, if there is modification in such a way that the new allele, the new modified allele, it doesn't produce any enzyme at all, again in that case also the phenotype will be determined by this not modified allele. So here, as I told you, three cases are there. There could be production of enzyme, maybe less efficient or they having similar efficiency. In that case, no doubt the phenotype will be determined by both. But in second modification, if there is formation of enzyme, but the enzyme is non-functional, again in this case the phenotype will be determined by this unmodified allele. Now third condition, third case, basically there could be such modification in the allele which results in that there will be no formation of enzyme. There will be no formation of enzyme. Enzyme will be not produced. So again, in this case, who will going to determine the phenotype? It is the unmodified allele. So as you can see, the unmodified allele, it is being determining the genotype, it is being determining the phenotype of the organism. And by the definition, you know, the one that will determine the phenotype, that will be the dominant one. So from here comes the criteria. The dominant allele will be that allele that is able to express itself, and the second allele that is not able to express itself is recessive. And why that allele is not able to express itself? Because in that there is some kind of modification, and that modification could be due to the environmental factor or due to the modification, means that modified allele, it is not able to make the proteins now, okay, or it is making the proteins but they are not functional. So basically that's why that allele is non-functional, and as a result the phenotype will be determined by the other one, and other one is known as dominant. So I can say, like, if this is the condition, capital E will determine the phenotype, it will produce the efficient enzyme, but small e, due to modification, either it is not producing any enzyme, or if it is producing any enzyme, then that is non-functional or that is having very much less efficiency. So in this case, the reaction will be catalyzed by the enzyme that is produced by this E allele. So everything will be determined by this E allele only. So we call it as dominant. Suppose I am having two hands. Clear? I am having injury in one hand. Now what will happen? I will do the rest of my work with my this hand, that is, you can say, not having any kind of injury. So in that case, which one will be the dominant? This hand with the help of which I can do the functioning, that is dominant for me. And the second hand which is not doing functioning at that particular time will be recessive. So in the similar way it is happening here. The allele that is coding for a protein. If I had taken the example of an enzyme, enzyme is also protein. So the allele that codes for a protein will be dominant, and the second one which is not coding due to modification, that is recessive. Am I clear with the concept of dominance? Okay, now we shall discuss the topic inheritance of two genes. Okay, till now we had done the topic inheritance of one gene. Now we will discuss the principles regarding the inheritance of two genes. First of all, what is a dihybrid cross? A dihybrid cross is a cross in which the parents differ in two traits. Suppose if I take a pea plant having round and yellow seeds, and if this pea plant is crossed with a plant having wrinkled and green seeds. Clear? So now as you can see, two characters are being considered here. Round shaped seeds and wrinkled shaped seeds. This is the first trait, that is shape of the seeds. Second is yellow colored seeds and green colored seeds. This is the second trait, that is color of the seeds. So here parents are differing in two characters. So basically this is an example of a dihybrid cross. Now when Mendel did this cross, what he got in F1 generation, all the offsprings produced, they were having round and yellow seeds. Okay, now when he bred these two plants, then in the F1 generation he got the result that all the plants produced, they are having round and yellow colored seeds. So from here he just thought that the round would be the dominant character when compared with the wrinkled one, and yellow color of the seeds is the dominant trait when compared with the green color. So basically round and yellow colored, these two are the dominant traits. So if I have to make a cross, round is a dominant trait, so I'll represent it by capital R, capital R. He took pure line, that is homozygous. Okay, it can't be capital R, small r, because he took true homozygous line. Now wrinkled, it will be small r, small r. Am I clear? If I talk about the yellow color, as the yellow color is the dominant one, so it will be represented by capital Y, and there small y, small y. Clear? Now next is we have to make the gametes. Now remember one thing, this is a pair of allele and this is a pair of allele. So basically the segregation of this pair of allele is independent of this pair of allele. Clear? This is known as law of independent assortment. The segregation of this pair of allele is independent of the segregation of this pair of allele. Clear? And with the help of Mendelism, I'll also prove this third law of Mendel, that is law of independent assortment. Firstly, it will be RY. The gametes will be having the genetic makeup RY, capital R and capital Y. And here it will be small r and small y. Now if I make a cross between the gametes, the resultant will be capital R, capital Y, small y. That is round capital R is there, so it will be round. As you know, capital R is the dominant trait. And if capital Y is there, then it will be yellow. That I told you, when he bred the round colored and yellow colored seeds with the wrinkled and the green colored seeds, then he got all the offsprings of the F1 generation to be round and yellow. So this is the dominant trait. Now what he did after that, he took two F1 plants and then he did self-crossing. Okay, now let us do that and then let us find out the phenotypic ratio. So here F1 plants are there, capital R, small y, capital Y, small y, and selfing is done, capital R, small r, capital Y, small y, selfing. Okay. Now let us form the gametes. As I told you, the segregation of this pair of allele is independent of the segregation of this pair of allele. So now basically 4 types of gametes are being produced. Capital R, capital Y, capital R, small r, capital Y, and small r, small y. Am I clear? Similar, capital R, capital Y, capital R, small r, capital Y, and small r, small y. Now let me make a Punnett square for showing the crossing. As you can see, 4 different genetic makeup are here and 4 are there. So total 16 boxes we have to make. Okay. This I'll write on this side and that I'll write on the top. Okay. So basically I am making 4 rows and 4 columns. Clear? Like this. Now capital R, capital Y, I'll write here on the left side. Capital R, small r, capital Y, small r, small y. Similarly, I'll write it on the top. Capital R, capital Y, capital R, small r, capital Y, and small r, small y. Now let me make a cross. Capital R, capital Y, capital Y. It will be capital R, capital Y, small y. The dominant trait, that is the capital one, it will come ahead of the recessive one. It is never written like this. Okay, we have to write it like this. The dominant trait will come ahead. Now, next is capital R, small r, capital Y, capital Y. Capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Am I clear? Capital R, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small y, small y. Capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Like this you can just do. Capital R, small y, small y. Similarly here, capital R, small r, capital Y, capital Y. Capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Small r, capital Y, capital Y. Small r, capital Y, small y. And here, capital R, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small y, small y. Small r, capital Y, small y. And small r, small y, small y. Am I clear? So this is our F2 generation. Now if I see the phenotype, phenotypic ratio, then firstly capital R is there, so it will be round, and capital Y means yellow. So I am taking round and yellow firstly. Okay, let me count how many seeds are having round shape and yellow color at the same time. This is round yellow, 1. This is round yellow, 2. RR round only, capital Y is there, so it will be yellow. Clear? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So total 9 are there. They are round and green. Now let us move forward. We are left with this, right? This is round and small y is for green. Round and green. So next is, round and green. So basically 9 seeds are round and yellow. Now let us find out round and green. 1, 2, 3. So 3 are there. Now let us move ahead. We are left with this. Start from this. Small r means wrinkled and capital Y means yellow. So it is wrinkled and yellow. Wrinkled and yellow. Now let me count. 1, 2, 3. Clear? And the last one is wrinkled and green. So here comes the phenotypic ratio 9:3:3:1. 9 seeds are round and yellow. 3 seeds are round and green. 3 seeds are wrinkled and yellow. And 1 seed is round, wrinkled and green. Am I clear? Now, let me find out the law of independent assortment with this result. Okay, let me count. If I take the parent, okay, so I was having round and yellow parent, and there I am having wrinkled and green. Okay, if I talk about the parent, this is the F1 generation. If I talk about the parent, so I was having round and yellow and wrinkled and green. So let me find out the individual things. Let me find out the individual organisms that are round, that are having round seeds, and individual that is having wrinkled seeds. Now it means along with the round, I'll not see the yellow or green color. Now let me count how many round organisms are there. The organisms that are having round seeds. 1, capital R is there. I'll not see the color of the seeds. I'll just see the shape. Round, round, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is also round, okay? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 seeds are round. And how many total are there? 16. So if I count the ratio, it will be 12 by 16, 3 by 4. It means 3 by 4th of the F2 generation, they are having round shaped seeds. If you just try to remember the result of monohybrid cross, then it was same 3 by 4th of the future generation or 3 by 4th of the F2 generation. It was having the dominant trait. And similarly here, 3 by 4th of the F2 generation is having the round shaped seeds. Now let me find it for wrinkled. 1, 2, small r is for wrinkled. 3, 4. It is 4 again, 4 by 16, it is 1 by 4. So basically 3 by 4th of the F2 generation, they are having round shaped seeds, and 1 by 4th is having wrinkled shaped seeds. So basically this also shows that the segregation of one pair of allele is independent of the second pair of allele. Clear? So this is law of independent assortment. Thank you.